We have a Ron Paul supporter. We're not going to take a lot. I don't take Mitt Romney supporters and Newt supporters and Santorum supporters and Perry supporters and all you Huntsman supporters. I'm very sorry. Your man dropped out. But how stupid were you to back him in the first place, if I may say? No offense, with all due respect. Here we go. Dan, Rockville, Maryland, the great WMAL. Let me ask you a question first. You're Ron Paul supporter, and you live in one of the most smothering blue states in the country. Why you don't have to do that. Why do you do that?
Well, actually, I used to be a conservative. I've listened to you for quite a while.
You're not even answering my question. I said, you say you're a Ron Paul supporter. You're living in one of the bluest of blue states. It is a high-tax state, high-regulation state. They don't believe in individual sovereignty. They don't believe in free enterprise. So why do you live there? I'm just curious.
I work here for a job right now, and you're right. They don't have any economic freedom, and I'm all for economic freedom. I typically agree with most of the things you say about economic freedom. Mm-hmm. It's the personal freedom that kind of makes it hypocritical. And one of those things is what I wanted to talk about, which is drugs. In an intelligent conversation. I'm not one of these guys who is illiterate, as you say on the blogs. I don't go and post things and call names. I like to speak intelligently.
I know, maybe you don't, and congratulations to you, but too damn many of your colleagues do.
And that's sad.
And I'll tell you what's interesting is I don't see it with any of the other candidates, not one. And I'm not the only one. You can talk to any talk show host. You can talk to anybody who runs a website. You can talk to anybody who writes columns for newspapers. It's the same thing over and over and over again. You get it?
No, I agree. I agree with you.
All right, so you want to speak for yourself, and you should. So go right ahead.
Well, you know, the thing is I heard you once say something about eating Big Macs and potato chips, and we have the freedom to put in our bodies what we want. And the fact is...
By the way, I don't stuff those in my ears so they affect the way my brain works.
Sure.
You get the point?
Yeah, just like alcohol.
So let me ask you that. I know, but we tried that already, didn't we?
Well, and you know how many more people got killed in the years of Prohibition than ever have?
No. And by the way, who ran Iran in 1953?
Who ran Iran in 1953?
I'm going down the talking points. Who was it?
Nothing to do with drugs.
Oh, no, it doesn't. But who ran Iran in 1953?
I don't know my Iranian history.
Well, then you don't know your Ron Paul talking points either. Go right ahead.
I don't.
So, in other words, your argument is it works this way. Unless your argument works, unless we have prohibition on liquor, there shouldn't be prohibition on drugs.
No.
Hold on now. And because we don't have prohibition on liquor, we should legalize drugs. I have it pretty right?
That's a very small part of it.
All right, well, tell me the big part.
Okay, well, Portugal. They recently allowed legalization of drugs.
Portugal is a dying country, a dying society. It's kind of like Maryland.
Yeah, I agree. But the problem is less people are getting AIDS, there are cleaner needles, cleaner drugs, and less drug use. It's like a gun law. You can ban guns.
No, you can't. We have a Second Amendment.
I know, but we also have a Constitution.
All right, how about this, my friend? Why don't we propose a constitutional amendment? Your side, your friends, you can write it. And let's see if the states want to adopt it. Let's see if Congress will pass it and the states want to adopt it.
I think that it's a states' right issue. And we talk about Obamacare being bad, and I agree.
Well, it's not purely a state. Hold on now. It's not purely a states' rights issue, because if I produce, say, a cocaine in one state and ship it across lines to another state, Ron Paul would tell you that's an interstate commerce issue. He said that about condoms the other night. And he was wrong, because the condoms in that particular case everybody was talking about were never left the state of Connecticut, but you know.
Well, the thing is it's a personal...
Okay, answer my question, because you didn't, did you?
Well, it's not a states' right issue. You're right. It's not an international commerce issue either. It's a personal...
So if drugs go from one state to another, is it an interstate commerce issue or not?
They can be regulated, but it's a personal liberty choice.
But they can also be banned, because the government bans certain things, interstate commerce. For instance, you can't have interstate commerce of people. Are you there?
Right, raw milk. That's so harmful, right? Let's ban raw milk.
No, I don't believe in banning raw milk, because raw milk doesn't turn a pilot into a bombardier. In other words, he doesn't lose his senses with raw milk. He loses his lunch.
Ban alcohol, then. You're being a hypocrite.
Why am I being a hypocrite? Go ahead. You're the one. You go ahead with your prohibition on alcohol. There's certain things that aren't consistent, not because they should be, but because they can't be.
No one's died from marijuana.
They tried prohibition. Nobody died from what?
No one's died from marijuana.
But a lot of families have been screwed up from marijuana. A lot of children. Hey, pal, I'm trying to educate you. Pay attention. A lot of children have been screwed up from marijuana. And by the way, that's why I have said, because teens, they get these criminal records, that I favor decriminalizing it, but I don't favor legalizing it. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think a 16-year-old should have access to marijuana?
They should have the same access as they would to alcohol.
Why? You just wait a minute. Forget about alcohol. I'm asking you to invent the world. Should a teenager at 16 have access to alcohol and marijuana? Yes or no?
It should be up to the parents.
But the parents don't know about it half the time.
Well, unfortunately...
All right, let me ask you this. A teenager, 16, he has access to alcohol and marijuana. The parents don't know, and the cops stop the teenager. Then what?
What are they doing wrong? Is there a legal...
Nothing, apparently. They're having pot and they're drinking booze, and they're 16. You know what? Your Nirvana sucks.
Let me ask you this, Mark.
Go right ahead. I don't drink and I don't do pot.
We don't. A lot of conservatives don't like.
You're not a conservative. You're a libertarian.
I know I am.
Right.
I'm saying a lot of conservatives.
This is a big difference, by the way, between libertarians and conservatives.
I know. We want personal freedom as well as economic.
Then he should stop telling us he's leading the conservative movement, don't you think?
Well,
because he's not. He should stop telling us he's leading the Republican Party. I'm going to hold on to you. You want to know why?
Sure, go right ahead.
Because I find you intriguing. I find you interesting. And not only that, I find you literate, which is an exception to the rule. So hang on there. Don't hang up. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall return.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes. How may I help you?
I understand that the reason why...
By the way, this is a great topic. The country's going to hell, and you're trying to figure out why marijuana is not legal. But go right ahead.
I could talk economics, too. In fact,
well, give it a shot, then.
Oh, economics?
Well, talk about whatever you want to. Go ahead. I'm not going to try and influence you.
Okay. Well, I mean, the reason why we say Obamacare is wrong is they don't have a right to impose us to purchase something, and he argues that there's a social cost to not having
insurance. Is somebody compelling you to buy marijuana?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I just want to make sure. Okay.
No.
Because that would be wrong. You agree?
I agree, but it would also be wrong to ban it because there's a social cost, because under that reasoning...
I'm not banning it. Don't use the Marxist language. There's a social cost and apply it to my arguments. I mean, I'm in court. We're in court. Hold on now. We're arguing that the government does not have the right to tell us what to purchase or to enter. The government cannot compel us to enter into private sector contracts. What does that have to do with drugs?
They shouldn't be allowed to tell us what we can't purchase.
But the government tells us all the time. For instance, you can't buy a nuclear submarine, is my guess.
I don't think many people have the money for that.
But that's irrelevant.
No, that's so ridiculous.
But the interstate commerce.
The interstate commerce clause, I believe, was set up to encourage
Yes,
commerce.
It's set up to encourage commerce. But on the other hand, it also empowers Congress in certain circumstances to prevent commerce. Look, either you're a constitutionalist or you're not. You can't say, but I don't like it, so I interpret it my way.
Well, do you believe it should be a crime to use a drug?
All right. You see how you've changed now?
No, I'm asking.
Hold on now. You compared it to Obamacare. I explained to you why you're wrong.
It's the same
We talked
thing.
about your world with the 16-year-old on drugs and booze, and the parents don't know, and the cops stop, and you say, that's his business. I mean, I just want people to understand how, not you, but how idiotic this gets. Now, what is your next question?
Why should it be banned then, Mark?
Okay, what was your next question?
Why should it be banned?
Why should drugs be banned?
Exactly. Why? Tell me why.
Well, under the Interstate Commerce Clause, if the federal government doesn't want drugs moving from one place to another, and if from a law enforcement point of view, there's nothing in the Constitution that prevents it, is there?
So then they should be able to.
Why don't you just answer my questions for once?
Well, they should be
All right, here's my Constitution. Where's yours?
They should be able to ban salt in hamburgers, which you are against.
But they're not going to ban salt in hamburgers because nobody wants to ban salt in hamburgers. We're a representative republic.
There needs to be a standard.
No. You don't get it. Let me ask you this. Are you a pure individualist, or are you an individualist and a constitutionalist? Which are you? One or the other?
I'm an individualist and a constitutionalist.
No, you're not. You're an individualist and somewhat of an anarchist. I just explained to you the reason we have a representative republic. And by the way, I don't need lectures about how screwed up this government is. It is really screwed up, and it has unmoored itself from the Constitution. So I'm not talking about that. I'm now talking about the Constitution per se. And if it's your position that under the Interstate Commerce Clause that the federal government can't regulate, can't tax, can't promote, and can't ban, you're wrong. What it can't do is compel us to do something like purchase drugs, like purchase salt. And the reason why they're not going to ban salt across state lines is because the people won't tolerate it. All right, thank you for your call. I really do appreciate it, but I'm getting a headache. I'm a conservative with libertarian tendencies when it comes to the economy. Okay? I'm not a pure libertarian. But when you look at the Constitution is not a document for pure libertarianism either. I follow the Constitution. That's what I do. And while I talk about individual sovereignty, the idea that we're going to fall on our sword when it comes to crack and cocaine and issues like that really, really misses the point. It misses the big picture. This is why you pull your hair out with these guys. Country's gone to hell. The entitlement programs are unsustainable. Going on $16 trillion on-budget debt. Well over $60 trillion in off-budget, unobligated funds. And I can go on, and I got to sit here. I'm just pointing it out. And we can do 3 hours on marijuana. There's something wrong with that. That the whole notion of individual sovereignty stops and starts with drugs. Because it doesn't. Hey, but you know, in Portugal, oh yes, those Portuguese, they have one up on us. Now their country's broke. They're going under. We and others are subsidizing them. But they're happy as hell. They have no idea what's going on over there. Oh, yeah. Having a blast. I could see it now. We legalize all these drugs. What a productive, vibrant, vigorous, virtuous, moral nation we would be. I can point to country after country, society after society, where they had massive use of opium and other drugs. And wow, were they swell before they crumbled. Yes, all right. So here's the false dialectic that the gentleman creates, or the strawman, let me put it plain English, that he creates. If you don't support legalizing drugs, then you're not a constitutionalist. If you don't support legalizing drugs, then why do you write books like Liberty and Tyranny and Ameritopia? If you don't support, and by the way, you heard him, 16-year-old, I could have gone down to a 12-year-old, and he would have still said the same thing. Because ages, well, what's the difference between 16 and 15, or 16 and 17, or 16 and 3 months, or 16 and 8 months? These are the kind of arguments you get caught up in. Do I favor the federal government regulating so much interstate commerce? I do not. Do I favor the federal government interfering in so much interstate commerce? I do not. But that doesn't mean I favor legalizing drugs across the board either. I favor legalizing wheat and apples and steel and automobiles and health care and all the other things most of us do and most of us use, with as little interference from the federal government as possible, because he's right. And as I explained in Men in Black, Liberty and Tyranny, the purpose of the Commerce Clause was to promote commerce. but that doesn't mean it was to promote drugs. And yes, they can regulate. And they regulated from the earliest times under the Constitution. We have to make choices as individuals, and we have to make choices as a society. There's a difference between the federal government telling you what type of light bulb you can put in your home and whether you have to buy health care and legalizing heroin. And if you can't figure that out, then I guess you're a Ron Paul supporter.